located in Glenwood tonight. First time here, never been here. Look it up if you don't know where it is. Okay, I'm kidding. It is in Sevier County. It is just on our way actually to where we'll be going after this, which would be on the northeast side of the fire towards Burrville, which is an area that was evacuated earlier yesterday and continues to remain evacuated tonight. So throughout the course of the next 30 minutes or so, going to look into a couple things and hear some from a family that lives in Casharum. We spoke with them earlier today. They don't have power right now because the transmission lines were affected by the Monroe Canyon fire. They're scrambling to figure out the generator situation and all sorts of things. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later. And then before we get there, we'll hear more about the evacuation status from the Sevier County Emergency Manager himself. I do want to show you the fire as it looks right now. Flames not impressive this time of night, but the pyrocumulus cloud is extremely impressive. And it shows the gravity of the situation in the area that we were actually at earlier today. Some good news for our friends in Monroe who have had to really deal with this over the last 2.5 weeks. That fire is not heavily impacting that area today, or at least this afternoon. This morning, they had heavy air tankers lining the hillside there in the Poverty Flats area south of Monroe, painting that hillside red with fire retardant. And the fire is actually responding really well to that. It's not very visual right now, which is a good sign. At 6 o'clock, we were over at Monroe Canyon, where they've got an area lined all the way up the fence post before you get into the canyon. 75 signs that were made by community members here thanking the firefighters working on the Monroe Canyon fire. So we showed you the pyrocumulus cloud. Meteorologists absolutely geek out about that stuff. Let's get to Chase Thomason with your first alert forecast.
Another hot, dry, and windy day, especially across portions of central, southern, and eastern Utah, where we have those red flag warnings, which means critical fire danger across a good chunk of our state. It's been extended now into Saturday, so the long-term forecast not looking good. Not a whole lot of rain in the forecast either, so please be extra careful, especially during the afternoon as those winds really ramp up. Right now, it's still windy, especially near the Monroe Canyon fire. We've had some gusts over 30 miles per hour, but they've been sustained around 20 miles per hour with those winds out of the southwest, so that wildfire smoke is spreading to the north and northeast, really impacting areas of central and eastern Utah. By tonight, as the sun goes down, those winds will relax just a bit, and then as we head into the afternoon, they ramp back up. Might not be as gusty, but still around 15 to 25 miles per hour. Winds are beginning to change, though, in northern Utah. I'll let you know how that might impact our weather as we head into the weekend, coming up in my first alert forecast.
All right, Chase, thank you very much. Relatively mild here in terms of the wind gusts at times. And just when you think it's going to be quiet, they ramp back up again. Not really fanning these flames, causing the erratic fire behavior that we saw yesterday, that a lot of you were kind enough to share some video with us. I say that just as the wind picks up here. Definitely not 30-mile-an-hour gusts, but sustained gusts a little bit lower than that. Want to give you a perspective of the fire, how it looks here. There's a helicopter at the top of the ridge. These areas have been more active towards the northern portion of the fire. We just left Richfield. We were there coming through from Monroe over to this area in Glenwood. And I saw this area and I said, you know, this would be an interesting perspective to share. We haven't been here yet, but that helicopter's actually going towards one of the areas that has been burning relatively well since we got here in the last few minutes. And that helicopter actually has a bucket attached, likely dropping water. We saw them earlier today trying to do that same thing over on the Burrville side, which was the most active that we saw today. Again, one of the two areas that remain under an evacuation. That would be Burrville, population about 75 people, ranching community. People were going in and out of there doing their thing. And then the other side was Monroe Canyon. Speaking of evacuations, let's hear from Bill Toffer, the Sevier County Emergency Manager. I caught up with him at 5 o'clock in Richfield. Take a listen. Bill Toffer, the Sevier County Emergency Manager, kind enough to join us here for a few minutes. Any change to what you put out last night for folks in Monroe Canyon, Burrville, and then Poverty Flats? You scaled back Poverty Flats this morning, is that right?
We did. We scaled back Poverty Flats. So Monroe Canyon is still under an evacuation order, and also Burrville is still under an evacuation order. We are assisting citizens in to gather things out that they need. Things like that, but we're trying to keep the general public and that out of those areas, and yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now with our evacuations. We're not expecting any more evacuations at the moment. You know, but the way this fire's been, anything's possible at this point. So we're just kind of playing it by ear and doing as they're advising us to do. So
Obviously, the conditions yesterday prompted those evacuations. Today, a little different for everyone here?
Yes, a little bit different today. We had a couple of situations that came up yesterday, caused us to shut down Highway 24 for a little bit, but those kind of cleared themselves up. We were able to open that back up. As far as the power outages, they're still out. Everything I'm seeing from that, it's going to be a couple of days before they can get that power back up, but they are working on getting some generators that are going to start powering that grid back, and so it'll be temporary power, but at least they can get some power back to those communities.
And the folks in Casharam, for example, we were speaking with them earlier. You hear from them coming up tonight at 6. They were scrambling to get generators to their neighbors and doing this balancing act, if you will. Where should residents be looking that live in this area? What should they be doing if they haven't already signed up for alerts and they're not sure where to get this information as they need it, or if you're not able to notify them with a door knock?
So yeah, the best way to do it is go to scso.utah.gov and go to emergency management, and on there you'll have a link for Code Red. Click on that, sign up. That will be our local emergency notification system.
Easy enough. Sign up for that so you stay in the know. Bill, thank you very much. Okay, glad we're talking about the power conversation that Bill referenced. There are some folks right now, about 3,000 people in Wayne County, that still don't have power. This was something that started impacting them yesterday. Transmission lines were impacted by the fire. I think we've now learned about 24 from Garcane. Garcane and Rocky Mountain Power, who we commonly talk about because of the sheer amount of involvement in the state, both of them have lines in this area. Garcane is actually the one that had the impact to their lines. Thus, the preemptive measure to try to shut them off, and then they informed everybody that, oh no, they were actually impacted. So, yes, it could be a while for the actual power to be out, but temporary power is better than no power, and they recognize that. They're hauling big generators over to their substations. We're going to try to get some eyes on that since we're going to be here in the area tomorrow as well, and see how that is helping the situation here for people that are really just scrambling because it's hot out here, and the heat will obviously not only heat up your home, but impacts a lot of the appliances that are trying to keep the food cold, that sort of thing. So feel for a lot of the folks. We'll hear from that family in Casharam earlier. I spoke to earlier today, coming up in a few minutes. But again, the conversation about this fire is more about how are they getting a handle on it. This thing absolutely blew up last night again, another night in a row, where between a 24-hour cycle, their estimates between 9,000 and 11,000 acres in growth from yesterday early in the morning hours to today in the early morning hours. And I have no doubt that we will see more growth on the map overnight tonight. For that, let's talk to the folks that gave us a briefing around noon today and were able to share a little bit more about the areas they were concerned about, the fire crews, the erratic fire behavior, and what that looks like from their stance, how they're trying to just wrap their heads around this thing.
I'll kind of give you a quick brief of what happened yesterday and where we're at today. So starting off over here on the southeast or southwest side in the Dry Canyon area here, we had fire the day before yesterday that pushed that fire out to the northwest. It hit our dozer line. We had a couple spots. We were able to catch those spots the day before. However, yesterday that fire button hooked around and jumped that dozer line again. And due to the weather conditions we were experiencing, the high winds and the dry fuels, we weren't able to catch that. So that forced our resources to back out and to start addressing a contingency line that we had here along the Live Oak area and on the southern aspect of Monroe City itself. The Long Flat area, there's a lot of cabins and structures in that. We had several resources in there addressing the fire and spot fires inside those inside that community. Unfortunately, due to the fire behavior, we had to pull those resources out, and we've been attempting to get resources back in there since that event yesterday. It's still hot, but folks are addressing that trying to get in there today. We had a lot of those resources jumping on that spot. It had aircraft, dozers, engines, crew personnel. Got about 75% around that spot fire, and the smoke in the column from the fire that was happening on the southern started getting over, so we lost our aircraft support in there, as well as there's power line hazards in there, so we weren't able to use those the aircraft, which is essential to what we're doing, especially in a situation like that. We did bring on our night resources last night. They were able to get what we call an anchor on that piece, and they're trying to secure this edge. And last conversation with the folks out there, they were having high success doing that. So at this point, things are looking good, but still more to come as the day goes on.
Love to hear about the moments where they feel like they have success on this fire, because I did press Isaac with the question, how difficult has this been when you've built a dozer line and it's ignored the dozer line, and it's jumped the dozer line, and it's jumped the fire retardant line? And that's the harsh reality they've had to deal with on this fire over the last particularly 24 to 48 hours. Although today a real different story compared to what we saw yesterday in some areas of the fire. Monroe, for everyone there, yesterday was a completely different animal than what you saw this afternoon, which is why we joined you there live at 6 to show the stark differences between that area yesterday, Poverty Flats, as that fire moved down to the south and there was cabins and areas that they were concerned about, no longer at this point. However, with the wind shift and the conditions, everything could change. On the other side, hearing from that family in Casharam who really had to worry about not just the fire itself, but now the power outage. They're not alone. We'll talk to them coming up. Hi, welcome back. We are live in Glenwood, which is kind of on the northern side of the Monroe Canyon fire. I want to show you the large cloud formation. I think there's a fascination for these. My fascination started with our meteorologists who love sharing the photos of these pyrocumulus clouds that form from basically, fire creating their own weather, that sort of thing you've heard about. This is a good example of that. It also gives us a better example of where the fire is at in intensity today, because on the Monroe side, we were not seeing a whole lot. But if you look off towards that northeast portion of this fire, that'll go over towards SR24, which they had to close last night because of the visibility. That area is seeing a little bit more of the activity. It's not as accessible from SR24 because there's a lot of room in there for this fire to run through. But that's where a lot of the activity is there today, with the sagebrush and the timber and the grass is mixed in there. So that is the side of the fire we were on to begin with today. Then we came back west over towards Richfield and Monroe. That side has had a lot of issues to deal with. Power, increased fire activity, wind, you name it. I spoke to the Ross family, caught them a little off guard outside of one of their family houses earlier today. We talked about a variety of things, including getting the power back on and watching this fire move through the area and their concerns.
It's awesome to see. I mean, you don't even realize how many other communities have, all these firefighters, and they just like that. There was 1,000 of them already stationed out there to go and help put these things out, help keep the cabins up there. So it's pretty cool to see just everybody that's involved in these natural disaster stuff come together and try to put it out. And honestly, as much stuff as they had here, I thought they were going to be able to get it under control. But you can just tell that the wind, it's just not happening. It's too dry. When
I see a large black plume of smoke, knowing there's some cabins sprinkled up and in there, I mean, that's what I think of is, did they get it or were they able to save it? I mean, has that gone through your mind? Probably knowing some of the folks that have spots up there, right?
Well, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but you can see two oh yeah, you can't now because the smoke. There's two cabins that we've been watching for 2 or 3 days, watching them just dump more and more fire retardant on it, and they've been working to keep those two cabins. So it's been kind of crazy to watch that, and I've seen those cabins since I was little, and I worked on that mountain for years. So yeah, it's been intense to watch all the firefighters and hoping that they're okay with those columns when they rise, and then worrying that they're going to collapse again.
Well, it's concerning for people that not only live in the area but grew up here. I mean, the backyard, the stomping grounds, it's all very nostalgic for folks like Brianna. And those cabins that she referenced, we were watching helicopters dip fire retardant through a bucket and drop them directly on those cabins earlier today. We have some great video of it too. And our hope was that that was enough to save it, as that fire burned all the way through that area in the canyon that is just outside of Burville, which had a lot of that fire activity. We've had some gusts roaming through today. I feel like it's not as much in terms of the wind factor like we saw yesterday, although it was maybe predicted to be. I think we caught the good side of the prediction. Meteorologist Chase Thomas in here with his full First Alert forecast.
Critical fire danger continues across central and southern Utah with these really dry conditions. We've had strong winds over 30 miles per hour. It's been out of the southwest, bringing in that desert heat, and that will likely continue as we head into the weekend. And we have a lot of thick wildfire smoke impacting portions of southern, central, and eastern Utah. Right now, here's what it looks like at Lake Powell, really impacting visibility and our air quality. So if you can, stay indoors because it's kind of nasty out there. Closer to the wildfire, there's one burning in northern Arizona near Grand Canyon. That's been spreading that wildfire smoke into portions of southeastern Utah. The Monroe Canyon fire, though, spreading that smoke into northeastern Utah. We do have more westerly winds as we head into the weekend, so mainly impacting areas east of I-15. There might be some light smoke for the southern end of the Wasatch Front tomorrow morning, but by the afternoon that should clear out, and those winds are more out of the west to southwest as we head into your Saturday. Unfortunately, not a lot of rain in the forecast, so those fires will continue to burn and gets gusty each afternoon. We can't rule out a stray shower or two across extreme northwestern Utah, but they really fall apart for tonight. So we'll have some cloud cover that rolls in. We're still really dry near the surface, so any shower that does fall apart could produce some strong, gusty, erratic winds. Now for tomorrow, it's still sunny from Logan down to St. George, but a little bit of monsoon moisture sneaks in. There could be a stray thunderstorm in southeastern Utah and again across extreme northwestern Utah, but don't expect really a whole lot of rain coming out of those clouds. Just Gusty winds and maybe some dry lightning, which doesn't help. Smoky conditions tomorrow across eastern Utah with temperatures in the 90s, and we'll be in the mid-90s along the Wasatch Front. If you have any outdoor plans this weekend, you don't have to worry about any rainfall, but it will be hot, so wear your sunscreen. The Utah Championship is going on, the Corn Ferry Tour at Ogden Golf and Country Club. We'll keep temperatures in the low to mid-90s across the northern end of the Wasatch Front. Maybe a few more clouds on Saturday, but the overall outlook is looking quiet. The 6 to 10 day outlook shows above normal temperatures here in Utah. I know I'm hoping for a pattern change, but I'm not really seeing much. And we'll likely see pretty dry conditions with below normal chances for precipitation August 6th through August 10th. There might be a little bit of monsoon moisture moving in by the middle of next week. We'll have a few more clouds in St. George. If we're going to see a stray thunderstorm, though, it'll be near and over the mountains Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon. But put it on repeat, highs around 103 to 105 degrees. It will get gusty each afternoon, but our windiest days might be Monday and Tuesday with winds over 30 miles per hour. So again, critical fire danger, especially down south. Salt Lake, we're in the low to mid-90s through the weekend. With the dry air mass, though, we can cool off at night. We'll be in the 60s, which is pretty pleasant. Mid-90s into next week. Few clouds rolling in, but it will get breezy each afternoon, Monday through Wednesday.
Welcome back. Want to give you one final look at the Monroe Canyon fire from our vantage point. This does not paint the whole picture. This fire is probably close to 50,000 acres at this point, and we'll learn that tonight after they do some late night mapping. But basically in this area, we're looking at a very dry hillside, and you're seeing just billowing clouds and smoke on the far side of the fire, looking towards, I guess that would be the east side at this point. And for the most part, the fire laying down quite nicely in other portions, but definitely something we'll keep an eye on overnight. And again, tomorrow on KUTV2 News, reporting live here in Glenwood, so in Sevier County. I'm Brian Schnee. We will be back for another edition of Arc Salt Lake tomorrow night.